So what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Colton Posey Fishing. Now, I did a poll a couple weeks ago, last week I believe it was, asking you guys, do you want me to bring back the Alabama Weekly Fishing Report for Central Alabama? And it was a big yes. So we're bringing that back. But before we jump into all this stuff, drop a comment down below and let me know what's going on in your area, how you've been catching them, or what you're seeing on your lake or your river system, because you never know. Whether you're in Alabama or not, you may help somebody out. So stick around, this is something you don't want to miss. So one of the great things is right now we're dealing with the spawn pretty heavy. We've had those full moons, and a lot of times, you know, there's a lot of theories that go on in bass fishing about when bass move up and spawn, whether it's based on water temperatures, the moon phase, and all this stuff. And I believe there's a little bit of truth in all of it. But one of the biggest things is being able to see it with your eyes. And we've been seeing a lot of fish that are on beds. One of the coolest things was the other day when me and my family was at the park. We actually got to see a bass at the local park on a bed. We got to watch it spawn, the whole 9 yards. The male fertilized the eggs and everything. It was really, really cool. So, you know, right now we've got a lot of things going on, a lot of the spawn going up. We're starting to see a lot of brim push up, you know, very, very shallow, and they're aggravating the bass. So, you know, one of the biggest things is when that happens is using those brim color baits and a lot of crawl baits, a lot of creature baits. One of the old notorious famous ones was the old Zoom lizard. The old Zoom lizard is proved tried and true. So, you know, just using baits that mimic, you know, other types of predators, whether that's brim or some type of creature bait, is going to typically be your best bet for those fish that are spawning. Now, another great thing is, the reason I say instead of using something like, you can always use something like bright, like a bright white swim jig, or, you know, bubble gum, whatever kind of color, whatever kind of like bright color bait you want to use. But one of the things is like typically with me, I hunt for pre-spawn and post-spawn fish because I don't like sitting there aggravating a fish on bed. And I'm not fishing tournaments, so I don't really care to catch one on bed and interrupt what it's doing spawning. Now, if somebody else does, that's up to them. I don't care either way. It's just what I prefer to do. So chasing those pre-spawners and those post-spawners, using baits like spinner baits to mimic shad, and then other baits like crankbaits, or, you know, soft plastics that mimic crawfish and stuff like that, you can typically catch fish like just all around, whether they're pre-spawn, post-spawn, or spawning. Now, the areas that we're finding these fish, your typical spawning areas, a lot of fish in pockets spawning, a lot of fish staging up to spawn, and then same with the post-spawn fish. You know, the post-spawn fish are kind of going to be mixed in with those pre-spawners, especially the fish that spawn super early, because we saw some of that this year, I guess just because of how quickly the weather turned warm. But, you know, focus on those areas, your pockets, your creeks that go way back, that doesn't get a whole lot of crazy wind, or like just little protected areas, whether that's north or south. I know some people argue about whether it's a northern bank or southern bank, or, you know, whatever, east, west, it doesn't matter. They're going to spawn wherever, you know, they feel comfortable spawning. So, I mean, we've seen them spawn on lawn chairs before that was sunk, you know, a foot in the water. So, you know, it just kind of all depends on your lake and your river system, and where these fish are typically located and where they're going to migrate to, which is the other thing. You can also still catch a whole lot of fish on the main lake right now, because sometimes there is a group of fish that, whether they're in the creeks or either they're out on the main lake, that you have residential fish that just doesn't migrate with the other fish. So, you know, don't be afraid to fish the main. Don't be afraid to fish, you know, all the way back in the creeks. This time of year, when most people are in the creeks and catching spawning fish, sometimes some of my bigger fish and the best fish that I catch come close, or either on the main lake. You know, whether that's throwing jigs or anything like that. We see spotted bass up on Lewis Smith Lake all the time spawn like on the main lake, like pretty much like right on the main lake in a little protected area. So, you know, move around a lot, cover a lot of water, you'll find those pre and post spawners. And when you find those bedding fish, if you want to catch them, slow down with like a lizard or something like that. But look in your pockets. That's typically the pockets is where I get the most bites, because there's more people in the creeks than there is in the little pockets off on the main lake. That, you know, it's like that little pocket that goes back maybe like 30 or 40 yards, but it's kind of got that cut back, so it's kind of protected from the wind and stuff. Those are the pockets that I typically look for. If there's deep water close by, that's usually, you know, like the perfect location that you can find, and these fish will set up right on that deep area as the weather starts to change, when you have like a little cold front come through, and then, you know, when they're kind of like like just staging up. They'll stage in that little bit deeper water, them little secondary points, whether that's a land point or some kind of cover or something that comes out, whether it's a dock or grass or something like that. You can catch a lot of fish like that. So either way, guys, hit that thumbs up button, subscribe down below. We're over 12,000 subscribers, pushing for 20,000 this year. It would mean the world to me. I greatly appreciate all of you. Don't forget to comment down below what you're seeing on your lake or your river system where you like to fish. Are you bass fishing? Are you cat fishing? Are you crappie fishing? Let me know down below. I'll talk to you next time. See you. Love you.